I do this a lot when visitors come, but Brother Drew has probably never gotten a standing ovation. This young man served our country faithfully, was wounded in action, got a Purple Heart, and God has just done some tremendous things in his life over the years. And some of you knew him before, and some of you have known him since he came to Christ. But this is God's man right here, Drew Appelberg. And I want you to stand and let's honor him this morning. Father, we put our hands on our brother this morning. We've been praying for weeks for this time he's going to be here. And now we just ask you to let the man of God speak to us this morning from his heart. I pray you touch him today, and I pray you touch our folks. Touch him and anoint him to share the word of God, and touch our folk today to receive what he's brought to us. And we bless you and give you praise for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you all, everyone. Appreciate everybody coming out. This is a very big day for me. This is the first time getting up speaking in front of a church, so bear with me. I love how Pastor Donnie said this would be a good place to come back to. You know, growing up as a kid, we lived in Crestview. I would move away, and I'd always come back to live with my grandmother. And I agree with what he said. It's a very special place to me. So what I'll do is I'll just get into my testimony, and then later on in the testimony we'll kind of get into how the ministry is operating and what we're doing for the veterans. So here we go. When I started doing my notes, I kind of didn't know where to start. And then we had 9/11 was the other day, and that's when I really got in and got my notes done. 9/11 was a very big day for us. I think everybody here, unless they're born in the last 19 years, was around for it. It was a very pivotal time in a lot of our lives, especially being young, well, I don't remember how old I was, but I was about 10, 11, 12 years old, and I remember seeing the planes hit, and I remember at that moment, that's when I decided I was going to serve the country. You know, growing up as a kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, I remember my parents, what are you going to do when you grow up? So I'm going to be in the Army. I'm going to be in the Army. Well, that day gave me the reason to join the Army. So, I remember being 12, 13, watching President Bush address the country. He addressed the country and said, Saddam Hussein has until midnight to leave the country or we're going to invade. And I knew that that was the time. Like, hey, I'm joining the Army for sure. And that dream never went away. You know, a lot of people here from Crestview, where they opened their Army recruiter station right down the road, just a couple miles from here. I was 15. I do remember that because I didn't have a driver's license at the time. So I walk up and I visit the recruiters, and I met somebody that was very important to me, Mr. Sergeant Odom. One of the best recruiters the Army could have, the most eccentric personality, very big, very boisterous. And he met me as a 15-year-old kid, and he didn't laugh, he didn't joke. He was like, that kid's going to join the Army. And he came and visited my parents at 16 years old, and he telling them, you know, everything that the Army was going to do for me, and they were not happy. They were like, nope, he's not joining the Army. There's no way. We're in 2 wars. But I knew it was happening, so I didn't give up the dream. I kept the dream going, and 17, I kind of realized like this was happening. I wasn't doing good in high school. High school was in the least farthest back in my mind that I could imagine. So at 17, I decided I was going to have fun for that last year before turning 18. I know you didn't have to have a high school diploma to join the Army, so I just kind of had fun. I took an entrance exam to get into the Army. So at 19, I left, got on a plane with Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and that's where it began. So got out of basic training, I got out, came back to Crestview, and got orders to go to Hawaii. Sounds like a great place to go, but it was the pit stop to Iraq and Afghanistan. So when you touched down in Hawaii, we were there for about a day or two, and they came to us and said, you know, you got 10 military police officers, that was my job at the time. They said, we're going to Iraq and we need 5 guys. So we all volunteered, and that was it. I didn't get selected for that deployment though. I came back, I worked the road and prepared for deployment. So 2009 came, we went to the National Training Center, Fort Irwin, California. We were training to go to a deployment to Iraq. This was in 2000 and late 2009, getting into 2010. So we'd spent about 6 to 8 months of training for a deployment to Iraq, and what our mission was going to be was just force protection. Well, we went to the National Training Center, and shortly after that, our mission changed. We scored very high on our test there that you take before you deploy, and it was determined that we would be better fitted for a deployment to Afghanistan to invade Kandahar City in 2010. So we did our train up. We trained for about 3 months for that deployment, completely different from anything that we had trained for before, but nonetheless we did it. We got it done. So we get a brand new commander before we go to Afghanistan, Captain Noble. This was 3, 4, 5 weeks before we deployed. Captain Noble came to us, and we didn't really know what to think. We were very excited. We were ready to go. Captain Noble came, and he became our leader. He became our guide. He's the one that took us and brought us back. I remember shortly before that deployment, First Sergeant Barry, he set us down in a room with all the platoons there. And he gave us an option. He's supposed to look to the left and the right. And he said, one of y'all are not coming home. It was like, I need everybody, got chills, but he did. He said, one of y'all are not coming home, and I need everybody to be okay with that. And if you're not, let me know. We can get you out of here, because I need people here that are going to be all right with that. And we left. We took out on deployment in June of 2010, and we came back in June of 2011. During the deployment, it was a very normal deployment. I guess as normal as you can be going to Afghanistan. But not a lot of chaos, not a lot of craziness. It was just a ton of work when we got there. And we started coming into the colder season in February, and we got an intelligence that there was going to be an attack in the near future at the provincial headquarters, the police headquarters for Kandahar City. Well, it was a normal day, it was Saturday. We kind of commanders went and had their meeting at the provincial headquarters, and we were all kind of down. We had an event happen at about 10 o'clock in the morning. They started taking small arms fire at the provincial headquarters reserve. So we take small arms fire. My squad was on quick reaction force that day. Usually quick reaction force means you're not doing much. You're sitting, you're waiting. If something does pop off, you get to go. Well, that day it popped off. About 10 o'clock in the morning, we got a call saying they were taking small arms fire, so my squad responded. And my truck was the last truck, so when we got in, our truck stopped, and as soon as we got between the entry control point, which would kind of be like the front door, I guess, to the compound, a couple grenades came off the top of a 4-story hotel that was directly across the street from the compound, and that's when we stopped. We knew that they're here to fight. And so from there, we were locked into about an 8-9 hour battle, direct battle with the enemy. They had suicide bombers, they had car bombs, they had everything you can imagine to bring to fight. And by the grace of God, we lived. And there's no logical explanation for why. I mean, there was a car bomb probably from me to that cross, from the truck. Complete car just disappeared. Everyone in the truck lived, by the grace of God. You can't, that's it. And that was a very, very brutal day for us. I was wounded, my gunner was wounded. We had about 5 or 6 people in our squad get wounded that day, but we all made it. We all made it to fight another day, and that was it. As quick as it started, it ended, and it was over with. So we carried back on the deployment. That was February 12th. And about 2 weeks later, I'll never forget, I was getting a haircut. It was crazy. One of those times you're down again. I was in the middle of a haircut, and we got a call that there was IEDs in place outside of the school. people don't know a lot of know the things that go on in Afghanistan. They don't want the people to learn. They don't want people to get intelligence. It's a very bad place. So we went to disable the bombs. We were there for about 5, 6, 7 hours. And a couple hours into it, our radio went off. And it said, Peacekeeper has a KIA and a WIA wheels up. Well, for a lot of you guys that don't know, that's a killed in action and a wounded in action. And that's all we knew at the time. So we're sitting out there, we're waiting for these bombs to be disabled, and we get a call that one of our guys are wounded and one of our guys are killed. Well, at the time you want to think, oh no, that couldn't happen to us. That was an accident or it was a training, but it wasn't. We got out of that mission and we got back, and we were told that one of our best friends, Corporal Andrew Wilpart, was killed. Sergeant Pineapple, Sergeant Williams, sustained broken arms, broken legs. He took a big blast to his side, but Wilpart was killed in action. So we did what any other soldiers do. We picked our stuff up. We put our best friend on a plane, and then we took the fight back to the enemy. We got back. We continued our mission. We continued our deployment, and once again, the fighting kind of subsided a little bit. But that day, February 27th, we had 3 soldiers killed within 36 hours of each other. We had been on this deployment for June to February. Nothing happened, and all of a sudden we have 3 back to back to back. And then it dies out after that. Now, May 7th is a very special day. I just said Corporal Wilpart was killed on February 27th. May 7th was actually his birthday. May 7th is normal, same time. We were kind of sitting around, not doing much, waiting on a mission to come down. And it did. I'll never forget First Sergeant Barry sprinting. And if you ever see a first sergeant running, you know that's a problem. So he's running over to us, and he says, hey, the governor's compound is taking attack. We got to get over there. So we load up, we get in the trucks, and we haul over there. One of our missions while we were there was to secure the governor's compound in the event of an attack. So that was one of our squad's focal point missions. So we secure the compound. We get there, we start taking small arms fire. We didn't know that that was going to be a 2-day attack. The Taliban had come down, and that was actually coined the Battle of Kandahar, May 7, 2011. They came for 2 days. They came to fight, and they fought. By the grace of God, none of us were killed. We all lived. I don't think any of us were wounded that day either, and that was very, very intense fighting. Like I said, it's May 7th. 2 days of fighting, and we're coming home in June. So we kind of got over the hurdle, and we're counting down the days to go home. You don't really know. You think you're going to get home, you're going to have your celebration, you're going to have parties. Well, that didn't happen for me. You know, I came home, and that's kind of when my problem started. But everything was normal over there. You get back, and it's not normal. I'm sleeping in the car. I'm not sleeping in the barracks room. Just could not find a sense of safety, couldn't find a sense of peace. And I looked everywhere, I promise. But no matter what I did, I just couldn't figure it out. I was going to the mental health office, I was trying to get help. And shortly after, I was transferring to West Point, the United States Military Academy, to go work at West Point. And going to the mental health office, they keep saying, no, it's okay, just wait till you get over there, you're leaving in a couple of weeks. Well, I knew there was a pretty big problem. I get to West Point. A couple of days after getting to West Point, I was promoted to a sergeant. So it's one of my biggest dreams ever, to become a non-commissioned officer in the Army. And it happened. And shortly after that, I had my first real PTSD flashback episode. Stayed up for about 4 or 5 days consecutive. Didn't know why. Had no logical explanation for it. I went and told my sergeant major some crazy. 4 or 5 days awake, you start going a little. I promise. So I'll never forget. I went and told him. I said, "Hey, Sergeant, I need to get out of the Army. This and that." Oh, okay, Sergeant. No. So I meet a doctor, and the doctor kind of, hey, maybe you need to go to the hospital. So I get to the hospital, and that's where we were diagnosed with severe PTSD, bipolar disorder. Got a lot of diagnoses thrown at you all at once. And if we focus on those diagnoses, we'll believe it.
That's right.
And while there may be some issues that you can't just diagnose everything. So that began my getting shafted out of the Army. The dream that I did have at one time was to be in the Army. That was it. I went to an interview not long ago, and the guy asked me, if you could have any job in the world, what would it be? I said, to be a soldier. That was it. That's all I wanted to do. Well, that dream was gone. In the blink of an eye, I woke up and it was gone. I was angry. I was mad. I didn't know why. I prayed to God. I was like, why would you take this from me? Everything I wanted was just given to me, and then it was taken. I told a doctor one time that she said, we were speaking on it. She was trying to tell me how it wasn't that bad. I said, ma'am, I've been in the Army for 6 years, 5 years. Imagine going to school for 5 years, learning something, and then you graduating and then saying, no, you can no longer do what you were just going to school for and what you dedicated 5 years to do. It's all gone. So I came back to Crestview and didn't know what to do. This was 2013, February 2013. I came back with a chip on my shoulder, upset, angry, mad, just looking for those escapes, looking for the next thing to take the pain away. I turned to drugs, I turned to alcohol, I turned to living crazy. I probably try to live as crazy as you can live. And by the grace of God, He said, no, that's not happening. Every time I started to look for an answer, I would run into a brick wall, and I didn't know why. Like, why, God? Like, I'm trying hard, I do this, but I had a big missing component, and it was God. I came home and I didn't go looking at a church. I was looking for the friends that I grew up with. I was looking for the people that I used to run with. And I was seeing what got them by. And God just didn't have that for me. So I started traveling the country with some people that I probably shouldn't have been with. Done a lot of things. Miss Georgina knows a lot more about it. I don't glorify that part of the story, but I left. I went with some people that I really shouldn't have been with, and I was with them for about 8 or 9 months, dedicated. Carried a gun for them across the country. I was wrapped up in a lot of things I really shouldn't have been wrapped up in. And my second episode happened in October of 2013. Don't forget that. The guys that I thought were my best friends, the guys that I thought we would literally kill for each other, they were gone. I had my episode in October, like I said, October 2013. I looked up and everybody that I was with, that I had been with for the past 8 months, was gone. Not to answer phone calls, they weren't there to help, not there to answer questions from my parents. I was a national missing person for about 5 or 6 days until I was located in Fulton County Jail. That was a very bad time in my life. I had an episode. I was picked up. I had a brain injury in Afghanistan, so my brain's recovering, and I've got these new mental diagnoses going on, and you don't understand why. So I'm hurt. I'm unable to speak. They can't take me to the hospital, so the only thing they knew to do is take me to jail. Couldn't speak. I didn't know why I was there or what I was doing. I stayed in jail for a few days, and eventually my parents came to pick me up, and they got me back to Crestview. And like I said, Crestview's always a home. I always come home to Crestview. I went into a very bad depression. I couldn't get out of bed for weeks and months. I went from traveling the country, having fun again, doing what I always thought I would want to do, to about being back at square one. And didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to go to, and I was lost. I had nothing. I went to Okaloosa Technical School and enrolled in welding school. I was like, okay, I kind of did this a little bit in high school. Maybe I'll enjoy it again. So I went out, I enrolled in welding school, and once again, I got wrapped up with people that I knew I shouldn't have been running with, stuff I shouldn't have been doing. And that time was a little bit different because I knew better. Second time I came home from that incident in Georgia, I met Tim English. I knew Tim. I grew up with Pastor Tim in high school. Everybody knows what English is if you graduated out of Crestview High School. I met him. Pastor Tim poured into me a lot. He kind of introduced me to the Lord and showed me that there is a different way to live and it doesn't have to be that miserable. But in my infinite 24 years of wisdom, I just wasn't there yet. I was like, oh, I got a little bit of it, I'm going to go back. I went back, I got wrapped up once again with the people that I shouldn't have been with. And I ended up meeting my daughter's mom. My daughter's mom and I, we were together for a little bit, and that kind of, we just went separate ways. When she became pregnant with my daughter, we separated. We both seen different people. And I promised God, if you allow me to be in my daughter's life, that I'll provide the best life I can for her. And I'll never forget, I had nothing going on. I was doing beach service out on the beach, picking up chairs and umbrellas. And I went to someone's house one night. I went to their house and they introduced me to their boyfriend, which worked in the automotive business. And he said, hey, you should go sell cars. Well, I never even thought about selling cars. I could sell a pencil if I wanted to. But she showed me the paycheck. I said, okay, I'm going to go sell cars. That's what I'm going to go do. So I went to sell cars, and I kind of put my head together. I said, you're going to have to do something a little bit different than you've been doing it before. So I packed up everything. I left. Well, I know everybody says you pack up your clothes and you leave, but I literally took a couple pair of clothes out to Pensacola, and I restarted. Restarted what I was doing. I went out. I had no bad influences. I had no bad friends, and all I knew was work. So I went to work for a small dealership, small independent lot, and I learned as much as I could from anyone that would teach me. Shortly after that, I went to a larger dealership and was given another opportunity there to succeed and to learn more. And I ended up at Step 1 Automotive Group. Step 1 Automotive Group gave me a lot of opportunities. They sent me to finance school about 2 years ago, or a year and a half. I went to finance school, got back from finance. I did that for a little bit. And then I was promoted to floor manager of Cadillac. So now I'm the young guy in a suit. I was the young guy in a suit walking around. Once again, I hit a pinnacle that I never in my life thought I would be at. That I never in my wildest dreams thought would be attainable for me. Hey, God, like I said, He's the Redeemer. So in the blink of an eye, I'm there. Places that I never thought I'd be, I'm there. It is a weird time. My medicine had ran out. This was one day. I took the time out to run to the VA. I went to the VA, and I seen a guy sitting there. I seen a guy sitting there waiting on his medicine with two people that looked just like, his parents, but the kid looked like me. What I saw sitting there was myself, sulking, not understanding why, not understanding anything. We go from being the nation's heroes, we go from being the best of the best that the United States has to offer to nothing. Now, when I tried to apply for a job, they said, you got to email and fax. I don't know how to fax stuff. I kick in doors. I can clear a house and don't ask me to send an email or to digitally send something. So I see myself sitting there, and I took that second out and I prayed and I said, God, what do you have for me? Because each year in the car business, I ended the year making almost double what I made the year before. And at the end of each year, I would kind of be upset. Not upset, but I'd ask God, now I want more. Now I want more. If you would have told me the year before that I would make that, I'd be like, oh gosh, I'll never need anything more than that. But I was left hungry at the end of each year. So, kind of missed this part here. The end of 2018, that guy, Captain Noble, that I talked about, the strongest man that I've ever met in my life, I'll never forget, I was sitting in a Chrysler in Crestview, and I got a call from Chris, my battle buddy, which he and I worked together for Captain Noble. He said, "Did you hear about Captain Noble?" I said, "Oh gosh." Got chills. The only time you say that is nobody ever calls and say, "Hey, did you hear about this person?" And it'd be good news. That's not the case. So he said, "Do you hear about Captain Noble?" And I knew right then, he said he killed himself. The day before Christmas Eve 2018, Captain Noble took his life. And it was a shock to all of us. It was a shock to the United States Army. It was a shock to everyone that served with him. It was a shock to his parents. And it kind of took me back. It had me stop and think, like, what am I doing? What can I do? You know, I've gotten to this place where I've found success and I've found a quality of life that I look for, but I still felt like something was missing. I was like, it's not the money anymore. You got everything you could ask for. And at the end of 2019, I spent that year really wondering like what I could do. Because if it could happen to Captain Noble, it can happen to anybody. So it really put me in a point where I had to pray and think. And I met somebody else in the car business that year that was teaching me about goals. You know, I never knew really how to write real goals and how to think about your goals and see yourself where you want to be. So I wrote down my goals at the end of 2019, and a lot of them wrapped up towards ministry, like learning more, informing more, and learning how to help veterans. And at the end of 2019, I sat my wife down and I said, "Hey, I just don't know what God's got for me. I think it's something different. I really don't." So we started praying more. I went and seen a pastor that I attended church at Marcus Point. I went and seen him and said, "Hey, you know, I feel like veterans and ministry is missing something. You know, we've got these churches huge churches, but there's no real veteran avenues. There's no dedicated person." So he said, "It's a great idea. I want you to think on it, pray on it, whatever you want to do. Just let me know what you come back with." Well, like I said, at the end of 2019, I made goals, and one of them was to get back into the outdoors and to get back to enjoying the quality of life. So I found fishing. I got into kayak fishing. I fell in love with it. It was a passion. It's become a passion. I was supposed to be, Miss Georgiana's laughing. I was supposed to be in Louisiana this weekend doing a professional tournament. I mean, like I said, in the blink of an eye, I went from having no hobbies to now kayak fishing. Like I said, God's the Redeemer. You wake up one day and the things that you always wanted are now here. And you sit there and you wonder why or how. But it happens, you know, diligently staying faithful to Him and accepting what outcomes He has for you really changes our perspective on how we deal with life and how we see the situations that we're in. So I started kayak fishing, and I'm telling you, it's crazy when God talks. You better listen, because I'm fishing, and then it all just made sense. It said kayak fishing. You're going to do a fishing ministry. Didn't really know where to take that and what to do with it, so I prayed on it, talked to my pastor, and my wife and I were laying in bed one night. Real heroes. That's it. That's the name of it, the Real Heroes. And I decided right then that I wanted to make a difference for veterans. There's a lot of guys fighting battles that we had no idea about. You know, our technology has improved so much with the equipment that we have. A lot of soldiers now are living through stuff that they used to not live through, which is now taking effects on people's brains and mental status. So when we're learning all of this stuff, there's no real spiritual support for the guys. When you go talk to a pastor, being a disabled veteran, I said I was going to February 12th, you kind of just see people, you're like, you see the award, or you see their diplomas. You don't really see awards. And I wanted to be a change for that. I wanted to say, hey, I want to help veterans, and what I'm doing now is just not enough. You know, going to church was just simply not enough. So we started the Real Heroes in April of 2020. It's an organization that's building. You know, we'll meet at my house today, actually. We're meeting today at 4. And it's no strings attached for the guys. They just show up. We do a Bible study. You know, General Boykin is a retired general from the U.S. Army, but he was one of the founding members of the U.S. Army Delta Force, the most elite combat fighting force on the world, but he's also one of the biggest Christians in the U.S. Army, I promise you. He almost didn't get into Delta Force because they said he relied too much on his religion and not too much on himself. I'll never, in his testimony, he said, "Well, you rely on your nose to breathe, and I'm going to break it for you." But he did it, and one of the things that he does now is he writes books, and he's an evangelist that preaches the gospel to these veterans, and I was enamored in what he was doing and the value that he was able to bring to the veteran community. And I just made that there my goal, was to establish something in our area that our local people are going to directly benefit from. So when you're sowing into the ministry, or you're helping us out, you're sharing a Facebook post, or you're commenting, it's helping people that are right here, your brothers, your sisters, and they need it, I promise. You know, when I was looking at Bible verses to come speak on today, I was kind of stuck on the same verse. I hold Jeremiah 29:11 very near and dear. You know, Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." That hit me hard, and it has hit me hard for the past couple of years. You know, when I get down, before getting saved, you get down and you're like, you're just down. Now, you get down as a Christian and you realize, like, God's got me down for a reason. Maybe I'm down because somebody that's down needs to be ministered to. Or maybe, you know, it's crazy the way that God works. I've learned to accept where I'm at in life and accept that that's what He has for me, you know. And anything less than accepting it is just not okay. It says, "Then you will call on me and will come and pray to me, and I will listen to you." Guys, the Lord listens, I promise. If He can save me from where I was at and the stuff that I've been through, and to have the grace that He's shown me, I can't describe it. And it's you almost feel guilty having such a good relationship with the Lord, seeing so many of your friends that you served with not have that relationship. And it kills me. So we started the Real Heroes for those guys, for the guys that really need it, and it's going to be a great thing. That's the look, if anybody's wondering what that was. Like I said, it could go 10 minutes.
The closer I get to you, the better I can see you, but you nod at me, I don't see you nodding. Let me ask you a question. You and I have just kind of touched one another on Facebook. We've not really bonded like I want us to. There are people that have listened to you this morning that have no idea what you've been talking about. PTSD has become a word that it's in our vocabulary, we have no idea. Till you have someone in your family that's gone through it. We watched our son, who's in the Army, we watched him change. He went to Afghanistan. And he's making a career change. He's been in 13 years, and we want to, I want to tell him, get out, stay in, don't get out. Until we went and visited with him for a week. But he's had it. He can't take it anymore. And to reach into these folks' lives, not just men, but men and women, and touch them. The VA has done a lot to help them. But, David Wilkerson taught us through Teen Challenge that, just having a program doesn't fix it. It takes Jesus to fix it.
Amen.
So So Brother Drew and Sister Kimberly have made a commitment. Quit his job. He quit all that car business. She's had to, take care of bring home the bacon. And this is a ministry that God really wants us to get involved in. I want you to buy a shirt today. If you don't, you can't buy it today, buy it on the credit, and I'll get the money and give it back to you. But if you can bless them, bless them. I know you're offering this morning. I saw what you gave. They gave me a note. It's amazing what you do. And you've done way beyond what I ever expected the church to do. You've done it this morning. Let's don't quit. Go on Facebook and look up Real Heroes. Like them on Facebook. Stay involved in their ministry. They've got a phone number on there. You can get an address and send them some money. Send them. Make them part. You ain't got to do it through the church here. Make it part of your regular prayer life. And I see his post on Facebook, whether I'm seeing Real Heroes or just seeing Drew Appelberg. I'm praying almost every day for this guy, Kimberly, and for these kids. They're in our heart now, and he's we got a bond because I know his brother's wife. Ain't that some way of being known? But I know his friend. Corinne has been a friend of mine for a long time, and I know he's a friend of hers because he went to school with her son, and they experienced him taking his life. So there are other people that he's ministering to, not just our veterans. He's able to touch in some people's lives and help them. And I want us to do everything we can to help them. I want you to stand with me. I want to give you an opportunity to come. Pastor Drew and Pastor Drew and Pastor Robert, Pastor Ben, and some of us will pray with you if you'd like to come this morning. And I want us to bow our heads. And I want to thank the Lord for what He does in our lives and the way He calls us. And this is just something real important to me now. I hope it'll become important to you. If you're in this room today and you're struggling, and let me tell you, all of us have struggled at some point in our life. We may have not had PTSD, but we've had some type of depression in our life. We've gone through periods where we questioned God, we questioned life, we perhaps even thought about it. I had the devil tempt me before, tell me to take my life. Probably some of you have. But if you're struggling right now with something, and you just want somebody to reach out and agree with you in prayer, I want you, when we finish praying, I want you to come. You don't have to get in order. Just come and stand. And just let the man of God touch you today. There's healing. Listen, on the mornings I've gotten up sick, I've gone to the hospital. Because I took my weakness and God used it to touch and heal somebody else. God didn't take the hands of Drew and Kimberly and show you the struggles they've been through. God can take their hands and use them. He told me that Pastor Tim English prayed for him and he wound up hitting the floor. There's something about the transferring. I shared with you how the woman touched the hem of the garment of Jesus, and Jesus said, I felt virtue come out of me. Today there's healing from the man of God today. He's brought a healing message to us, and a message of educating us on the struggles our young men and women go through. Not just our military people. There are other people going through it. But I just want you, when we finish praying, to come today. If you need to be saved, you join them and come. And we're just going to believe God for a miracle in these altars today before we leave. Father, we just pray today. I know this is not the norm for Brother Drew. He's a one-on-one guy. But you made him stand here with great dignity and great poise and a great presentation to us today. You're going to use him mightily in touching lives, not just one-on-one, but in groups like this, in churches. I pray you'd open doors for he and Kimberly to get into and to share their ministry. And I pray today, God, for every person in this room, those that will view this, I just pray a miracle for them today. And I thank you now, God, that you're going to work in somebody's life today. many lives today. You've already worked, but you're going to continue to work. And you're going to change their destiny, their life, and their outlook on life. And I just bless you for that this morning. And we give you praise for that in Jesus' name.